Time to submit your final project. And if you have chosen to stay local for your hosting with Xampp, this is the video you need to be watching. This really shouldn't even be necessary, but just for a quick review, I'm going to show you how to obtain these 3 items that I actually need. Well, the third of which you don't really have to obtain. It's just how you log into your WordPress site. So I need these 3 things. I need your SQL database, just like you did for the test. Same thing. I need your zipped up root directory, also like I required for the test, but a lot of people zipped up their entire Xampp directory, which is not what I want. So I'm going to demonstrate these 2 things, and then I need your login credentials for your WordPress site, which would be when you go to your site in Xampp, which is localhost / the root directory, wp-admin, wp-login, the things the admin password and login that you use to get in case I need to install your site and get into it. Odds are I'm not going to need to do that, because what I do pre-grading appointment for the grading that I'm going to get done before I see you is I use this item right here, the SQL database, and I load it into a text reading file for code files that enables me, it's kind of like brackets, but it's even better. It breaks it all down into paragraphs, so it's easier for me to read and go through your content, which is the most time-consuming part of this project to mark. So that way I can mark it ahead of time. Now, I need these things submitted by the deadline. If you miss the deadline, there is no late box. You're just going to have to take a deduction and show up for your appointment and hope for the best. I'll have to kind of blow through your content with you there and mark it as best the way I see it. I need this turned in by my deadline or your professor's deadline if you happen to be watching these videos in another section, whatever that may be. So it's 11:59 p.m. on a certain day. Don't wait till 11:55 or 11:57 if you're not sure you're going to remember how to do this. Like, you want to submit it like right on time, okay? Because there is no late submissions, there's no emails. So this is the process you followed at the end of the test. First thing you're going to do is the SQL database. So let's get to localhost, okay? So your Xampp should be turned on, obviously, which if you've been working on your project for months, you're getting comfortable with this. So should be turned on. If you're on a Mac, I can't demonstrate exactly how that looks, but you would know how to turn it on. It's quite similar the way it's set up, but this would look the same. You would go to phpMyAdmin. Okay, so we're doing the database right now. So once you get into phpMyAdmin, you're going to see an export button. Now that export button will be available on almost every single screen in phpMyAdmin. But you don't go in here and just hit export. You have to click on databases. Okay, then you have to click on the correct database, which is for your final project. So you might still have the one in here for the test. You might still have your WordPress demo in here. Okay, let's just say, just for the sake of what I'm doing here, even though this is a test database, but this is the database for my final project. So I'm going to click into it. You don't check the box and hit export. That doesn't do anything either. You have to click into the database for your final project. Make sure you choose the right one. Those of you on Xampp will still see a bunch of other databases. You got to make sure you pick the right one. If you want to check to make sure it's the right one, you can go into WP options and it will show you like the root directory path that it's following here. Okay. This one is for test bomb. So I'm using a test as an example. You guys do not get confused here. You need to pick the database for your root directory. Okay. And then as soon as you get to the screen with all the tables like this, you hit export. Now you probably have a lot more than this because you've been working on this over the course of however many months and you've added a lot of plugins and your theme may have come with a bunch of different stuff. You probably have a lot more stuff on the screen, but this is where you export. You hit export. Okay, from here, you don't mess with any of these settings. You just go down here, you leave it set to SQL, and you hit go. And after you hit go, it will prompt you to download an SQL file, which should be named whatever your final project is named. Again, I can't stress enough, I don't have anything in there that I can use as that demo, so I'm using best test ever, but you're not giving me your test for your final project. It's just an example, okay? A lot of you take some of my video content way too literally. So just download this. Once that SQL file is downloaded, it's not going to be that big. It might take a little bit longer to prepare it for you. I'm going to throw mine into downloads, and then that is the first thing that you put into the Dropbox. Okay, so I've got some other stuff in downloads here. That would be the first thing you put in the Dropbox, and that is the most important thing because I can see all of your text-based content, like everything, all your pages, posts, descriptions for products if you're using WooCommerce, all of that stuff is in your database. Okay, so I need that. It is the most important thing. You cannot mess that up. If you give me the wrong database, that will also result in deductions because I won't have been able to review your content. You'll find out about this when you arrive at your grading appointment. So that's how you do it. Make sure you remember everywhere you go in PHP-MyAdmin, you can hit export, but you need to get to databases and you need to click on the actual database. Okay, and once you click on the database, whichever one it may be, then it shows the tables. Only then do you hit export. Okay, that is item number 1. Item number 2 is your zipped up root directory. Okay, please do not zip up your entire Xampp application folder. That is not what I want. I just want the root directory for this particular website, which is your final project site. Where is this? So on a PC, you would go to the C drive, and in the C drive, a folder should have been created called Xampp, and you go in here and you go into htdocs. On a Mac, you would go to the applications folder, and within the applications folder, there should be a folder created called Xampp, and you would follow that through and go into htdocs. Once you get into htdocs, Mac or PC, wherever you may be, you take the site. Let's just pretend this is Rock Climb site. Okay, I don't even have that root directory from that other example I showed you, so these aren't lining up. But that you guys should know which database is for your final project and which root directory is for your final project. So within the root directory, you should see your typical admin content and includes. You might see a lot more stuff if you've been working on this, more folders that were created as a result of themes, maybe not, okay, whatever. But that is what you need to zip up. So you take that root directory, right click, command click on a Mac, and you're going to send to a compressed zipped folder. And once that is done, that is the second thing you turn in. I repeat, you do not zip up your entire Xampp directory for me. So this may take a minute because this is where all your large imagery and all your large content is. And this is something that whether or not I actually make use of it is kind of irrelevant. I'm still going to give you a deduction if you don't submit it properly. But if I'm going to look at your content and I'm having trouble because there's something going on with the database, I might need to use that, take your root directory in, and install the whole site in Xampp to be able to see it. Okay, if you're not on Xampp and you don't submit this stuff correctly, I can just go to your site and look at it, which is not that bad. In fact, that's what I will be doing with a lot of you that are on GoDaddy, but I'm not saying that in the GoDaddy video because then they'll think they don't have to submit this stuff. Everybody has to submit database root directory. It's a big part of this course that you understand file management, how to get these files, how to move them around. So there you go. So that would be the second thing you would put in the FOL submission box, Dropbox. The third thing I want to see is your login credentials for WordPress. And you don't have to do this as a separate file. You can put it in that little comment field. 1, 2, 3 items, then you're done. If you don't submit as a separate file, you would just have these 2 items that you submitted, and that's it. Do not miss the deadline. I do not accept email submissions of anything for this project. If you miss the deadline, you just show up for your appointment, and I don't even need an explanation of why you missed the deadline. I know why you missed the deadline because you weren't working on this thing over the last 2 months like you were supposed to be. So just don't miss the deadline, okay? How about that? Because I will mark it as is when you show up if you miss the deadline, but you will receive a healthy deduction off the top because you will have had an entire night to work on it that your classmates didn't, maybe more, depending on when your appointment is. So that's it. Get it done. I'll be on, well, I don't know when you're watching this video and which semester, but I'm usually on email checking before things are due to make sure I'm there to help people. But you guys have had a lot of help over the course of the term. There's a ton of videos up there. We've had lots of lab time. You should be in a position to get this submitted on time, no problem. And please do not be late for your appointment next week. Whenever that may be, should be posted in FOL. I will see you then.